I didn't know she would have some evidence of what I do, so I walk with some, but more about these later. So thank you for that kind introduction, Minister Robinson, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Board Chair, staff of the National Library of Jamaica and the IOJ and related cultural agencies, distinguished guests all, a very good morning to you. And thanks for answering. I always wonder why people didn't answer. I also see my sister from the International Women's Forum, Nina Israel. Thanks for being here. Martin. And I better stop calling names now, because I'm getting into trouble. But I say a very good morning, despite Chantal's reigns. The holdings of the National Library of Jamaica teach us that based on other storms that we have had in the past, she no worry we. Although we sympathize if she has worried other people on her way here, and will go on to worry other people. Now, when Mrs. Hudson suggested that I use talking history at the NLJ as the springboard for my talk, I readily agreed. I think I was so flattered that she used the title of my radio program on Nationwide 90 FM that I did not even at that time think about what I would say. But when I actually sat down to prepare for my short talk this morning, I decided that what I really want to talk about is talking history because of the National Library of Jamaica. And I'll tell you why. When I started out as a history major at the University of the West Indies in the year dot, I did not even know what the field of historiography was. I had no idea how to write history, much less to talk history. In the class or out of the class, I was one of the shyest students at UWI. I know you don't believe it now, but it's true. Ask Patrick Bryan. And I was very affected by the snobbery of my peers who were studying law or medicine, business administration, politics, and other seemingly more lucrative fields. I don't know if Julian will agree that politics is a lucrative field, but anyway. But a lot of people thought so. And then, in the course of doing my major, I was introduced to the National Library of Jamaica. And thereafter, I practically rented a tile here. Where's my tile, Mrs. Hudson? Within the walls of this treasure house of knowledge, I discovered the key to talking history. Within these walls, I learned about Jamaican history. I saw the maps and plans of plantations. I saw the graphic representation of who lived where in Jamaica, who ate what, who was rich and who was poor, who had fancy things in their houses, who had nothing, because we have some of the inventories, whose countries became developed out of slavery, and whose countries remained underdeveloped and undeveloped, who brutalized whom, and who said eventually, enough done be enough, like Marlon James's Night Women. I discovered indigenous perspectives about our history. I discovered revolutionary men and women who became icons of our country because we had to do the justification for national heroes and the one heroine from the resources right here. So in a sense, this is a place where research affects policy. If you are looking for information to affect policy, this is where you come. I discovered that the history of the Caribbean was not that single story that was rammed down our throats by Eurocentric writers. I discovered that while our people were brutalized by the effects of conquest, colonization, enslavement, and indentureship, agency was every Caribbean person's middle name. So intolerable are we of any form of injustice or discrimination. And for those who have always tried to figure out what the A in my name stands for, you always see Verene Shepherd and nobody knows what it means. Then you have your answer now, it's agency. Because of their agency, we know now that our ancestors fought back, wrote back, spoke back. And I discovered some of their names and some of their stories in these well-preserved documents here. Stories that inspired me, made me proud to be who I am, proud to be connected in the present to the inspirational women and men of the past. It was here that I met Nanny, a woman who fought back against enslavement and who told her fellow Maroons that they should not sign the treaty, even though the English had cried Cree. Jamaicans know what that means when you cry Cree, right? Stop. Don't fight no more, we can't take it. Her actions made me ask, like Lucille Mayer, where on earth did such women, the so-called subordinate sex, get the nerve to confront systems of domination? And Lucille Verene Mayer answered that question. She said, it came from their very subordination, the moral force of the powerless confronting the powerful, and from their ability to draw strength from that inheritance of ancestral spirits from that other side of the ocean. I met another woman who used to live around here. At least her mother owned it and inhabited it. And some of you know who I'm talking about, Mary Seacole, right, Mrs. Hudson? And my goodness, could that woman talk back. At times in Spanish, ambassador, which she learned as she roamed Latin America like Lamb and Digicel now. She espoused black pride long before Garvey, and a lot of us don't know that. Even though she was of mixed race and born free, she lauded the black people of Escribanos in New Granada for their contribution to that society. And this is what she said in her book. I found something to admire in the people of New Granada, but not much. Whatever was of any worth in their institutions, such as their comparative freedom, religious toleration, etc., was owing mainly to the Negroes who had sought the protection of the Republic. She loved her black mother and verbally terrorized all who would seek to bleach her or cast aspersions on blackness. On an American steamer from Navy Bay in Cologne to Kingston, she put those who disparaged her as a yellow or Negro woman and tormented and spat in her maid Mary's frightened yellow face, to quote her, in their place. Earlier on in Panama, she had reacted violently to the U.S. citizens' offer to bleach her to make her more acceptable to white society because of his pigmentophobia. And she said this, if it, meaning her skin color, had been as dark as any niggers, I should have been just as happy and useful. This was her response to such an outrageous suggestion that he would like to bleach her. The bleaching is not something that just emerged here. This was 19th century I'm talking about. I learned about Lucille Verene Mayer even before I met her. She pioneered the field of Caribbean women's history and provided the material and attitude, especially the attitude, that I needed to now be able to go all over the world talking about Caribbean women's agency. And this agency was not only found in the history of the protesting Tainos and Africans. Mayer herself took such courage from the women she met within the walls of the National Library of Jamaica and other repositories that she herself became a rebel woman. And we have the book here, which is called Rebel Woman, that she did. And we do not have to speculate about her motivation, her objectives and challenges. In a 1990 semi-autobiographical speech, she said, in the early 1960s, I started to seek out the women of Jamaica's past during the period of slavery. Women of all classes and of all colors, black, brown, white. I had no feminist motivation, or at least none that I recognized. I was motivated mainly by intellectual inquisitiveness, the usual ambition of the doctoral candidate to investigate virgin territory, which it was at the time. What Verene Mayer found in the pages of history as she tried to decode the mysteries of the black female condition would not only outrage her and make her wonder at what previous historians had ignored because they weren't using indigenous knowledge and sources, but forced her to become a reluctant feminist, as her life after 1974 demonstrated. For what is feminism really but a defense of gender injustice affecting women? By her own admission, wonderful things happened on the journey into that female rebel past that she explored in her PhD thesis. For, she said, no one could spend so many years in the company of such women and remain the same. And that's the essence of what I'm saying. That once you begin to research, once you begin to use the resources around here, you are not the same. You have to change. Within these walls, I met the men and women of Jamaica who defied the monopolistic designs of mercantilism to develop the internal marketing system and intra-Caribbean and intra-regional trade. Men and women who did not plant sugar but opted for other commodities. They had been experiencing regional integration long before CARICOM and CARIFTA, the UWI and the West Indies cricket team. And I wrote a whole book about them, in case you're interested. Livestock, Sugar and Slavery, Contested Terrain in Colonial Jamaica, right here. Within these walls, I found the names of the protesters at Morandi, those men and women who fought and died with Bogle. And that's when I realized from the list you have here that so many women were also a part of that struggle and were jailed and killed in that struggle. I was introduced to early Jamaican art, like that of Duke William Belisario. I found some of our early literary talent right here. It was here that I found the manuscript that led to the writing of the book Busha's Mistress, or Catherine the Fugitive, written by an early ancestor of the late Monty Perkins, Cyrus Francis Perkins. The book is set in Trelawney, and it gives us a glimpse into what slavery was like in that parish, especially for the heroine, Catherine. Busha's Mistress. The manuscript is still here. I worked with my colleagues at the University of York in Canada to put this out, so that you could hear the voices of our people in that part of at that time. And now, because of the energy, I have the evidence I need, and the Reparation Commission has the evidence it needs to contribute to the debate over reparation. And of course, this issue has been recently pushed back into the limelight because of CARICOM's recent announcement of its intention to open negotiations with Britain over its responsibility in this matter. And let me show you what I have. By the way, if you're interested in the sequel saga, you can have it in this book with my middle name agency. I want to disturb my neighbor. So here, in the CD, are the names, 15,000 names of those enslavers in Jamaica who got the compensation money. You know that in 1834, at the moment of emancipation, the British paid their enslavers, the planters, 20 million pounds, which in today's money is about 17 billion pounds sterling. And what I think corporate Jamaica can help the library to do is to find the resources to digitize and capture these documents in a form that our people can have and manipulate. And I went further afield, you know, Mrs. Hudson, because I know I have this, but it's like I wanted to have this in my hand. These are some of the names of these same people I'm telling you about. All the names. And I have the rest in my office of those people who got part of the money. Yeah, also know how much I received. And over the next few months, our research team will reveal, but let me make it quite clear. I'm not trying to be confrontational with any people in Jamaica. I'm just saying, here is what we have found. Let's sit together now and see what we can do about it for development, okay? And, but, if it is true, finally, that knowledge is power, then I have been empowered by the National Library of Jamaica, thanks to what I have gained from the knowledge in the newspapers, the films, the maps and plans, the manuscript and secondary sources here. Not only have I been able to write history as you have seen, but I have gone to the four corners of Jamaica and all over the world to talk history. I didn't know that people were so interested in Jamaican history in every continent. And I've been able to do so confidently, armed with the knowledge of what my ancestors did in the cause of Caribbean freedom. And by the way, talking history, by talking history you can also earn some money, because I could not become a professor and gone up the ranks from assistant professor assistant lecturer right up to professor without having published the books. And the more you get up the ladder, the more money you get. Now, that is all that much, but I'm still saying, I'm not an assistant lecturer today. And the reason I'm not an assistant lecturer today is not because of age. It's because you have to do the work and you have to publish the books. And each time I publish a book, I get a little bit more money. So there you have it. And of course, Corporate Jamaica is helping me to spread the word about history by being sponsors on my radio show. I think I have 6 sponsors now, and I'm absolutely grateful because they realize that they must invest in history, especially since it's not a compulsory subject in our schools, so somebody has to try to spread the word. Above all, I have to pinch myself sometimes when I find myself at international fora talking history because of the work that I have read and written about right here. When I hold down audiences at the United Nations in Geneva or New York or Vienna, where I'm just coming from, especially when they were discussing the financial crisis and human rights, that was the agenda in Austria, and also they are discussing the Vienna +20, the Vienna Declaration and Program of Action, and crafting the post-2015 agenda. And they asked me, like a girl from Jamaica, to come and say, what is the historical background to this issue? And I was able to tell them. I'm sorry if you think I'm boasting, but hey, I said where I come from. And I actually think that it's a conversation that we need to have here in Jamaica right now, because if we don't intervene in the discussion, the discussion paper that is out there now, put out by the eminent group that Ban Ki-moon put together to talk about what happens after the MGDs come to an end in 2015, we have to be a part of the discussion. And I was telling them that equality and justice and compensation for historic injustices must be part of that conversation. So my only hope is that we can enrich the collection by repatriating copies of our documents that are in the UK National Archives. It's expensive to do so, but we don't have everything here, and we need to have back a lot of those documents. And I also hope that Jamaica will make it a priority to preserve records that are here in this form, in other digital forms, so that our records will survive to do for the next generation what they have done for our generation. Thank you very much.